Following the train wreck of a year we had with 2020, a lot of people assume that 2021 is going to be a lot better. At least that's the hopes. Welcome to the Bar for Bar podcast, and this week I'm just going to share my predictions with 2021 in the rap game. So already it hasn't been great, because as many of you know, we ended last year with Doom passing away and started this year with Dr. Dre being rushed to the ICU. Thankfully, Dr. Dre is healthy. But, that's still a concern. The other concern really is just who's going to release music and when are they going to release it? Because there's been so much music that we thought was going to release last year that didn't get released and we assumed was getting pushed to this year. The biggest ones of that would probably be J. Cole and Kendrick dropping. I think everyone assumed that Kendrick was going to drop last year, and same thing with J. Cole, especially because The Fall Off was marketed as a 2020 album. But we still have a couple more weeks for that to still make sense. But other than that, obviously Drake, we had a huge release waiting for him, but that we at least got a release window for. So starting with this month, so far we haven't really gotten anything crazy. We got that Griselda tape, or the Griselda soundtrack, you could say. But we've also got this release window for Drake's album. Is it going to actually come out? Who knows? I think Drake, along with everyone else, was under the impression that the pandemic was going to be more under control by now. So he may end up pushing that back because I'm sure Drake would want to tour this album. Because, Drake is one of those people. He's he probably doesn't need to tour because Drake is such a big artist, but it would definitely help him, especially because money. But in general, artists make a lot of their money on tour via ticket sales, as well as merchandise sales. Merch sales is one of the biggest sources of income for most artists, so I'm not surprised if that's what he was thinking. But also, he has that Nike deal, so he'll probably release some exclusive stuff through Nike for this album, and, that's probably what we'll get. As far as J. Cole goes, since The Fall Off was being marketed as a 2020 presidential sort of thing, the last day he technically has to release it would be Inauguration Day, which is January 20th. But also, given that he's posted that image, basically that flow chart where it started off with his feature run. It was the whole Fall Off era. It was a feature run, Revenge of the Dreamers 3, Off Season, It's a Boy, and then The Fall Off. Since he's released that, everyone's under the impression that he's going to be releasing a few more projects before The Fall Off. And I was a little more skeptical about it as well until he posted on Instagram the Off Season, and then just him fucking floating as if he was Sora from Kingdom Hearts. But we're probably going to get something from J. Cole this year. I think it's safe to assume. And Cole, just like Drake, doesn't necessarily need to tour, I think, to sell well. Obviously, it is always ideal to have them, or to tour an album. But, it's a weird situation right now. You can't really be doing that. So that's probably what J. Cole's gonna do. He's probably gonna release something. It does also make sense now that if you treat these other two projects or titles as projects, because the off season, it could just be throwaways, or Lucy's kind of like Untitled Unmastered. And it's just this is what I was working on in the meantime and what just didn't really make the cut. That'd be cool. With Kendrick, though, I don't know what's happening with Kendrick. That's all I got. I mean, Kendrick is an enigma. We don't hear from him ever. I think he still exists as a person. I mean, he's definitely an idea. Yeah, no, it's just weird with Kendrick. Like, the last thing we heard from him was his, what was it, top 25 rap albums of all time. Like, that was like released last week or this week. I don't remember now. But that's like the last thing we heard from him since he had that interview with Baby Keem back months ago. I don't remember exactly when now. But, you know, he's probably working on PG Lang with it. But yeah, I don't know what Kendrick's doing. I think in general, though, like, speaking not about any specific sort of artist, I think most artists are going to be... they're going to be more comfortable releasing projects this year. Because they saw how last year went, and saw that a lot of people still did pretty well considering we're in the pandemic and couldn't tour or anything. So they're going to realize, yo, we could just release our music. Like, we could just do this. Like, I mean, again, obviously they would probably want to wait until everything is cleared up and vaccines are readily available, assuming that they support vaccines, because so much of hip hop is anti-vax. Yeah, I mean, you know, we just have to see. There's a lot of uncertainty still. Like, we'll probably, hopefully by the end of the year, things will start to get back to normal. That's me just being real about it. I don't know when things are going to become normal, like 2019 normal again. But it'll happen at some point, I hope. We can't all be stuck in home all day, forever. Or we could. I mean, it's not a huge deal for most people. Like, I'm cool with staying home all the time. But, you know, for artists, it's probably important for them to be able to get out and tour, because, like I said at the beginning, it's really important. Like, that's how they make most of their money. But also, like I mentioned, these major artists who held off on releasing albums are probably looking at what all these smaller and more independent artists were doing, as well as Griselda, really, because they all did a lot in terms of music and releases. And a lot of people obviously had ideas and plans for 2020, like in terms of releases and their whole release schedule. I mean, if you've checked out any of the other podcasts I've had with artists, they all said, like, yo, we had plans, but this just messed it up, but we kept it rolling. And I think it's a little bit different for some of them, because they're in a position that it's okay. Like, it's even more important for independent artists and lesser known artists to be able to tour and sell merch. But, you know, they kept it pushing. I don't know exactly why bigger artists are holding off, other than them potentially wanting to make the most of whatever album that they're putting out, being like going on tour and selling merch and stuff like that. Like, they want to get as much out as they can. But, you know, I think they're going to realize, or well, they probably already realized by now, that, yo, we probably should just release something. I don't know. That's what I would do. I would still release something and then eventually tour. I think maybe they're also making music specifically for this time in our lives too. At least if we're taking what Toby Nwigwe did with the Pandemic Project. Like, that was a very appropriate project, and it was really focused in on what was happening around the pandemic. Like, this is stuff that they made in the pandemic. And obviously he hasn't been able to tour off of it, but, you know, it's still something. Now, as far as other artists that I feel like should release something this year, or at least planned so far, Pusha T is definitely dropping something. I hope. I don't know why I said definitely. Yeah, he's probably not going to drop something. He's lied to us many times. But because he had that, I think it was the IG Live with Steven Victor, where they hinted at music coming within 90 days, and that was about 30 days ago or so, something like that. So we might be getting new music from Push sometime soon. It's all produced by the Neptunes and Kanye. But yeah, there's so much music that we just know is coming out. Like, it has to come out. If it doesn't come out this year, it'll come out eventually. Like, I'm just scrolling through the Wikipedia list, actually, just because it's easier to find. But yeah, everyone from TDE, I would expect. Isaiah Rashad for sure. Like, my God, man, like, just release the album. Like, why are you waiting so long? Nah, I get him. I get it. He's one of those people. He wants to make sure everything's all good before he puts anything out. And, just take his time with it. But we've been waiting for so long. Zay, come on. Other than Isaiah Rashad and the rest of TDE, I'm sure we got some people from Dreamville dropping. Jid should be dropping his tape with No ID. I remember hearing about that a few years ago. Cause should be dropping something. We might hear something from Lute. Because he released a couple of tracks last year, but don't know. It's so funny that they always put Dr. Dre on these lists. Like, Dr. Dre is not going to release Detox. Relax. Has it already been confirmed that Juice WRLD's putting out another project? Posthumous? Yeah, okay. We'll obviously get these people who always release stuff. Like, we're going to get Thugger. We're going to get Lil Baby. We're going to get Gunna. We're going to get Future. We're going to get, like, just all these random dudes too. Like, Lil Yachty. Wayne's probably going to release something. Macklemore. What? Oh yeah, I think Q-Tip's supposed to be releasing something this year. I forgot who he worked with. Shit. Yeah, and I know he had a lot of stuff planned. Q-Tip. Five Dogs solo, super late solo project is coming out. Only Build for Cuban Links Part 3 might come out this year. I forgot about that one. Artists that I'm looking forward to, though. Obviously Grand National and everyone involved is going to be releasing stuff. Season 2 is probably coming out sometime this year. Sometime soon, maybe. I don't know. And yeah, everyone just involved with Grand National should be... They're probably going to be releasing something this year. I would not be surprised at all. I want Black to release his album because that 6-piece was not enough. SZA's probably dropping an album. Let's see. Who else did I have? Boogie. Boogie's probably releasing his album this year. Well, yeah, he is, because he's been hyping it up. He's doing freestyles, he said, every week until his album comes out. I wouldn't be surprised if we get another surprise release from Eminem, because that's just his whole thing now. Man, yeah, there's a lot of artists that I'm just like, I'm blanking on right now, but I know the second I walk away, I'm gonna remember hell artists that I'm just like, oh yeah, no, they'd probably be dropping something this year, or I hope they would drop something this year. But yeah, like, I think, well, there's a lot of people I'm hopeful that are going to drop albums too that I know aren't going to release anything. Like, Rocky's not going to release an album this year. Like, there's a very slim chance that he's going to release an album this year. He's just out there enjoying life. Like, he's not gonna do all that. Same with Zay-Wap. Like, I mean, He might release. It seems like he's going to release, but I also wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't release this year. Same with Absol. He might release, but Absol is just one of those dudes that's just kind of quiet, and he'll drop when he drops. Yeah, I mean, I just know we're gonna get a lot of projects from the underground. We might get a new Mad Gibbs project. That'd be dope. We might actually get Montana, because it's been about 2 years since Bandana. I could see that coming up. I know Freddie Gibbs is gonna release a shit ton of music, as he normally does. Actually, he didn't even do that bad last year. He only released one real album, but I wouldn't be surprised again if he releases a lot more. And yeah, I mean, like I said, the usual suspects are probably going to be releasing a bunch of albums. Like the people who always have a shit ton of albums, like DaBaby's probably going to put out another album. Like that's going to happen. Oh yeah, there's the Q-Tip albums, Algorithms, Riot Diaries, and The Last Zulu. Those were all supposed to come out last year, I think, but clearly that didn't happen. Shit, there was something I just thought of it, but now I've lost it again because there's just a lot of music. Yeah, like there's just. I think though, what's going to end up happening is that, kind of like I said already, like a lot of artists are going to release music, and if they can tour, they're going to tour. If not, that's just what it is. They may wait until like closer to the end of the year when things start to clear up. But even then, I don't think it's really going to be like people are going to be rushing out to go see people on tour right away. Because it's still kind of up in the air of like how effective things are going to be and if people are going to actually get the vaccine. I know Lupe, for example, is saying you have to have a vaccine if you want to go to a show, or have to have taken the vaccine if you want to be at his shows. I think I heard something about, I think Ticketmaster or Live Nation. Yeah, Live Nation, saying that you have to be vaccinated to go to any of the shows at their venues. So that will definitely push people to get vaccinated. I'm hoping. I hope so. Because, like I said, I've said this a long time ago, but these scientists know what they're doing. I'm well aware of what they're doing and understand the processes. So you have to also just kind of look into it. Don't just blindly go, oh, they're gonna microchip us. Oh, they're gonna give us another virus. Like, come on now. I'm not trying to argue about like the effectiveness of vaccines and whether or not they're real. Like, come on now. Like, we shouldn't have to do this at this point in time. Like, we've been getting vaccines long enough to know the side effects for the most part. Like, just relax. This is also why I don't talk about it whenever it comes up in lyrics anymore. Like, if it's something that they'll reiterate multiple times, then no, I'm definitely gonna make a point to call it out. But if you're gonna just kind of do a throwaway bar, like, I'm not gonna be like on your ass about it. But now that I'm on this rant, I have to bring up Royce again. Royce needs to shut the fuck up. You can't be a woke, conscious rapper and just straight up deny things like this. Especially if you're on a podcast with Lupe Fiasco, who is 100% pro-vaccine and is probably smarter than you. Lupe Fiasco is probably one of the smartest and most educated rappers out there. Like, just from what I've seen. Like, I don't follow him like that, but just based on what I've seen and the fact that he was doing those IG lives, trying to educate people and having like people in the like involved with medicine on, like, come on now, like, no, you can't. Well, enough of that. I hope we can get to a point where people actually start releasing music that we want to listen to. Because although last year was pretty good in terms of music, there was a lot of meh music out too. Especially like towards the end of the year, I'd say. But I guess that's also because people were trying to release less music because of the lack of touring. So, I mean, there's a good possibility that once things start opening up again, we're going to get more music that I'm just not huge on. Like, you know, just ride around music, club music, stuff like that. Like, stuff that I don't always listen to and don't really prefer in, like, my listening habits. I understand that people like it. That's totally fine. And I understand it has a time and place. But that's not for me. And I don't want albums full of that music anymore. Like, obviously, I know I can avoid them, but, you know, like, there's definitely been a shift where music hasn't been, like, people releasing albums haven't been putting out music that is meant to have wider appeal, if that makes sense. Like, the people who are releasing albums now are, well, at least what I've been listening to more frequently, are a lot more focused. And focused in the sense that the projects aren't going like from serious like rapping, like about like a serious topic or something that's just a straight up bar out, like they're just rapping their ass off. Like, it's not going from that to a club banger. Like, that is far less common this year than it has been. And I am not looking forward to returning to that. Because that was one of the things that I didn't like about albums like Megan Thee Stallion's album. Like, she started off rapping her ass off and then just went straight into the music that people associate her with. I know she can rap her ass off, but I mean, again, like, she's just trying to appeal to the masses. Maybe we'll get a Tina Snow release at some point. That might be cool too, actually. Yeah, if we get a Tina Snow release this year, that'd be dope. But yeah, like I said, like, for me, flow of an album and like placements in an album is very important. And that's something that I've really picked up on this year. Like, a lot of people have been doing a great job of keeping the flow and consistency of an album really solid. But then there's also music that I just kind of go into assuming that there's going to be no flow. Like, I'm just like, yeah, no, it's just going to be trash in terms of continuity. Like, there's going to be good songs here and there, but it's going to be like just thrown in there. Like, they threw this set of like tracks on shuffle and decided, yep, this is the one. This is where we're going with it. So that's another thing I hope for this year. Better flow in terms of albums and better continuity, because it just makes it better, in my opinion. We'll probably also... I honestly would not be surprised if we get more unreleased music or previously unreleased music from artists. So like Juice WRLD, like Nipsey Hussle, like Doom. Like, I would not be surprised. I also wouldn't be surprised if we got more music from Sean Price. Because, and in terms of posthumous releases, I think his estate is handling it the best. Like, they're releasing projects that he was actually actively working on. Like, not just random loosies and shit that they're like, oh, we can make some money off of this, like they did with X. Like, I was never the biggest fan of X anyway, but from what I've heard on his previous, or well, more recent releases, I guess, They were just random like verses that he had, and they were like, let's just throw someone else on here or add to the beat or some shit like that, because they didn't know what to do with it. But with Sean P, like, I think I forgot the album, but the one that came out last year, like I forgot who he worked with on it, but that one, like, it had features on it, but it was still done really well. So that's kind of what I'm hoping for with these other releases. But we'll see. We'll see. I think I've rambled on enough about this. Let me know in the comments. Let me know in the comments below what you're looking forward to most in 2021 in terms of music and just hip hop in general. Because, like I mentioned, last year was kind of weird. And so far this year's not been much different. So we'll see how things go. Also, like and subscribe if you want to see more content and podcasts. Also, check out the Book of Doom, which started chapter 1 on Saturday, which 2 days ago, if you're watching this when the video comes out. That's just a series where I'm going to be going through Doom's life and just, kind of breaking down his albums, his music, major events in his life, stuff like that. So make sure you're subscribed for that. But that's all I got. Thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and please stay safe out there.